Hello. Okay, this is a continuation of some folk stories from the Gospel of the Witches, Aradia by Charles Leland. This is the story of the Goblin messengers. They said that they weren't sure if this was a goblin, a spirit, a devil, an angel, some kind of being that's not human. So this goblin somehow earned the favor of Mercury, the god. So Mercury gave this goblin the gift of speed. He said that no matter how fast somebody or something is, whether it be human, animal, or spirit, it will never be able to outrun you. You'll always be able to catch up and catch whatever you'd want to overtake. So, this goblin had a sister. It was known that all deities or spirits had a counterpart. For every male, there was a female. So the goblin had a sister who ran errands for the goddesses. And she happened to be running an errand for the goddess Diana. So Diana gave this this goblin spirit thing, she gave it the power of speed as well. And she said to it that no matter who's chasing you, you will always be able to outrun it. So one day, her brother, the other goblin, the male one, decided he just had this overwhelming urge to chase his sister. And so he chases and chases and chases. And, this is like the same story that I told you before about Lucifer and Diana. So this is just a different take on it. So the gods think this is very funny. And they make this to be the moon and the sun, the rising and the setting, and chasing each other forever. So this is just another take on that. This is the way that people in Florence tell that story. I like the version where it's Diana and Lucifer better. But anyway, so it's these the goblin messengers that are running around chasing each other. Diana also is known as the protectress of outcasts. And there's a goddess, Laverna, the patroness of pilfering and rascality. So there's goddesses for all kinds of things. So there's a great poet and magician of that time that's known as Virgil. He was asked a question about a famous speaker. There was an orator who spoke at the palace, and I guess the emperor asked Virgil what he thought of the speech. And Virgil said it had no body to it. He said he couldn't tell if it was just a beginning or an ending, but there was really no body to this speech. And he said it was just like the goddess Laverna. Now the emperor had never heard of Laverna, so he asked, "Who is this goddess Laverna? I've never heard of this deity." She was a very crafty goddess, he said. She was actually a thief. Little was known about her by the other deities because she spent so little time in heaven. She was never around them very much. She stayed in the darkness on earth, and she hung around with the thieves, the pickpockets, the people who were up to no good. So, one day she went and disguised herself as a priestess. She went to a priest and she told him that she was interested in buying his estate to build a temple. She swore that she would pay in 1 year, and she made this oath on her body. She swore on her body that in 1 year she would pay up. So she sold everything, all the animals, all the crops, everything of value on the estate till there was nothing left, and then she took off, didn't pay. Next, she went to a lord, and she told him she was interested in buying his castle. She swore on her head that she would pay this debt in 6 months. So she did the same thing. She sold everything, furniture, animals, crops, whatever was of any value on this property, sold it, and took off. So these, the two people who were scammed by her cried out to the gods and the goddesses and said that this isn't fair. They want to be reimbursed. So she was called to judgment, and she sat in front of the gods for her judgment. And when they were judging her, she had the power. She had certain powers. So the first judgment of how she ripped off the priest, she said, well, I swore on my body. And all of a sudden, her body disappeared, and she was just a head. But you can see I have no body. And then she did the same thing when the Lord said she swore to pay up. She said, but I swore on my head, and her head disappeared, and she had no head. And so the gods and goddesses thought this was very funny, and they did end up making her pay the people back. And they said, since she has such free time on her hands and she's not busy doing any duties or anything important, they decided to make her the goddess of these poor thieves and everything, because they didn't have anybody to call out to for help or anything. They're outcasts. So he decided to make her their patron. So, and she's also put in charge of women who are in trouble, who find themselves pregnant and unmarried. She was known to help them at their time of delivery. She would put them into a sleep, and they would wake up the next day, basically not remembering the whole traumatic event. I'm not sure what happened to the babies. I didn't really understand that part. But yeah, so that was the interesting tales that are in the book, The Gospel of the Witches, by Charles Leland. And it's worth looking at if you're interested in Italian history and culture. If you can read Italian, all the better, because it does have both the English and Italian. And I didn't go into anything about the various incantations and spells and stuff that the book instructs you on. But I think it's really cool that this book was written that long ago. And I think it's also very interesting that a lot of the traditions took passages and a lot of inspiration from this. A lot of what our rituals are based on comes from this book, because it's very specific on describing how Diana is to be worshipped, and how to make the circles and the specific way to pray to her and all of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and just a little bit of information for you. And I'm going to be doing some more book reviews. I'm not sure if I'm going to do them one at a time or in groups, but yeah. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Blessed be.